Hello and welcome to the Luxury People podcast presented by the World Luxury Chamber of Commerce. My name is António Paraíso, your host, and on this podcast we speak with leaders shaping today's luxury world. Entrepreneurs, creatives, executives, driving real impact. Each episode delivers practical insights, powerful ideas, and stories behind the strategies that move the luxury industry forward. Today, I am pleased to speak with Riccardo Pozzoli, entrepreneur, advisor, founder, and managing partner of Hyle Consulting, as well as creative director for Persol Eyewear at EssilorLuxottica. Together, we will explore how luxury brands truly grow. You know, the strategies, the tools, the real business cases behind scaling, of course, while preserving exclusivity and DNA. Riccardo Pozzoli, welcome. Welcome
Thank
to
you very
the...
much, Antonio. Thank you.
Yeah,
Very happy to be here.
we're delighted to have you in the Luxury People podcast today. Riccardo, I did my homework. I've researched a little bit about your extensive career, and you have worked with iconic brands and you have built ventures from zero. Now, looking back, was there a moment, a turning point that shaped your personal perspective on how luxury brands grow?
Thank you for reminding me about my extensive career, Antonio. But no, definitely, I also have to say that I've been very lucky to work in the luxury world in the past almost 20 years.
Mhm.
And definitely we went through many big changes, let's say. So probably there haven't been one turning point, but probably there has been many turning points.
Quite a few, yes.
Yeah, quite a few that kinda enlightened me about, how the luxury, world was, let's say, shaping. But for sure, let's say that maybe it's not a moment, but what I really I saw and I kinda lived constantly was a stronger and stronger relationship that the customer was seeking for compared to the in relation to the brand, to the luxury brand, to the luxury product. And I saw how, if we think about everything also that went on in the past decades, because of technology, because of pandemic, because of, I mean, there's been many huge factors that change and shape the world, but constantly the relationship with the brand was growing, was getting always deeper, let's say. And thankfully technology also is using a lot is very useful, is really helpful for us to kind of build up, evaluate, analyze that kind of relationship that we can build up with the customer. And for example, during pandemic, this has been absolutely one of my turning point. And by the way, in that period, I was writing my third book together with the professor Philip Kotler and Professor Giuseppe Stigliano here about the relationship with the customer for luxury brands. And in
Uh-huh.
reality, we were exactly evaluating how a lot of barriers were kind of falling down, and being able to be truly authentic with your customer in what you are telling them, what you are selling them, is
Uh-huh.
really making the difference in the relationship that can you build up and keep for
Yeah.
a lifetime, with your customer.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Persol Eyewear, it almost needs no introduction. It's a very well-known heritage house with very deep cultural equity. When you stepped in as creative director, what was the first diagnostic that you performed, to understand where growth could come from?
That has been quite an extensive period, let's say. Also because when I stepped in, and the first time, in reality, I was not even the creative director, but I was sort of general manager. So I had also
Oh,
responsibilities
I
for the
see.
business growth
Mm.
of the business. But apart from that, what I immediately realized when I stepped in was that Persol was a sort of still undiscovered treasure, you know.
Yes.
Next year in 2027, we're going to celebrate 110 years of history in the eyewear
Wow.
making in reality. It was born in
Mm.
Turin back in 1917 by an engineer, a visionary engineer that was creating Googles for the aircraft pilots during the First World
Mm.
War. So
Mm.
we're
I
really
see.
speaking about a more than 100 years of history. And
Yes.
what I really
Century.
realized was that we really needed to deep dive in every single step of this history, because all the history of that brand was basically every, let's say, important moment of the history of the brand of Persol was
Mm-hmm.
really related to the launch of some innovative product during the evolution of the eyewear industry in reality. There has been, for example, in the 60s, the first foldable eyewear, or in the 50s, 40s, the first flexible temple. So literally, as the founder was an engineer, during
Uh-huh.
all the evolution of the brand, kind of launched constantly innovations. So what I realized was that to really try to understand how to project in the future, we had to start from the past and try
From
to
the past.
learn as much as possible about all the history of the brand to then plan. And the discover was amazing, because by doing that, I discover. I mean, I kind of understood how the fact that, for example, we are still making 100% of our frames in Italy, close to Turin, in the regional factory, for example, it's a
Mm-hmm.
huge richness, because we have fathers and mothers that are passing their passion for the product to their
Exactly.
kids. So we still are able, because of our history, because of this kind of
Mm-hmm.
charm, let's say, we're still able to even give, passion for the craftsmanship
Mm-hmm.
to young boys and girls. So this is absolutely, I think, one of the biggest richness on which we're gonna
Yes.
build up the future.
And it makes so much sense. And looking back and picking up the history of a brand, it makes then future actions in the market unique. There's no
Unique and also coherent,
and
about your
coherent,
history.
of
And I
course.
think that for luxury brands nowadays, even more, like, trying to be coherent is probably one of the best strategy.
Yes, you're right. Um, Riccardo, you have advised startups and global luxury groups. Can you share a real case? You don't have to state a name, but just an example where a small strategic shift has unlocked important growth.
Sure,
Can you
but
remember a case, an example?
yeah, I can. And I can also, in reality, I can also unveil the name. The name is, I mean, the project that we were working on was a beautiful um, e-commerce platform,
Uh-huh.
peer-to-peer. The name is Depop. It's quite a big platform nowadays, and it has been bought a few years ago by Etsy Group. But my memory, unfortunately, are from 2013, so a long time ago, almost 13 years ago. And I was advising the founder of the company that created a beautiful project, a beautiful product. Basically, back
Hmm.
in the time, was a sort of a shoppable Instagram. You literally had the
Uh-huh.
same layout of Instagram, but you could shop and you can buy
In there.
everything what the users were making. But the founder, as it was a tech guy, he was super focused on the product. So my product is perfect, everything is perfect. So he
I
was
see.
thinking, and also he was designing and making the product for the customer, for the final. I mean, not the customer, let's say the users in this case,
Hmm.
because we are speaking about the platform. But what I really tried to make him understand is, but why don't you focus on influential users instead of just users? So
Uh-huh.
basically, he just did a little switch in how
That was
designing
the
the product, and the product became very very usable for people that had huge audience already on different social media and stuff. Also, it was the beginning in reality of the social media, so somehow also for people that, for example, had blogs, fashion blogs, luxury blogs back in the time. And this little switch in reality make basically the platform became huge, thankfully
hmm
for the also for the story of all the shareholders of the company, because he went from some tens of downloads to tens of millions of downloads, and
Wow.
with a huge community that then created a beautiful also subculture in
Uh-huh.
London and the rest of Europe about what exchanging vintage stuff, etc. was. So yeah, like
So
little
interesting.
switch, just checking, just
Yeah.
focusing on a different type of
A
users, and
different
it
type of
boomed.
users has
Yeah,
unlocked massive
yeah.
growth. Interesting. Very interesting. Riccardo, in your managing role at Persol, how do you balance, you know, designing innovation on the one hand and preserving heritage on the other hand? Is there a decision-making model you rely on to evaluate whether a certain innovation or creative direction is good or bad for brand equity?
So that's probably one of the hardest tension that we have in the
I
job
know.
that we do. When I mean, as we were mentioning before, I mean, it's great to have a brand that has such an history, but at the same time, it's a big responsibility looking at the future, and it's a big responsibility also compared to all the history and the great value that
Hmm.
you are bringing, on your shoulders. What we try to do in reality is to work a lot, both on the, let's say, product side and the communication side, to work a lot with our archive, let's say. So we
Aha.
work in terms of product, but also in terms of communication, as I was saying, because we also we kind of look at the past also, I don't know, about beautiful campaigns or collaboration or type of celebrities that worked with us and partnered with us in the past, and
Hmm.
definitely about what is the innovation and the designing of the product, because we really at Persol we really believe that for us, being timeless, it's quite one of the biggest, value that we can have and we can deliver to our customers. So what we try to do is to just try to understand what were the most timeless designs of all our history,
Designs.
and then we just try to bring to the customer in innovative ways. You know what I mean? In
Yeah,
more, let's say, modern and actual ways.
I understand. Picking up the timeless models and eventually designing them
Yeah,
with new
obviously.
versions.
Absolutely. Obviously,
Mm.
it evolved a lot, the industry in terms of materials, techniques, and stuff. But again, we love the idea that there are more than 30 handmade passages on every frame. We love the
Ah,
idea that every frame takes 15 days to be from the beginning to the
to the
final
end.
touch. So
Uh-huh.
all that is, we really believe that it's one of our biggest value, and we also believe that at the end of the history, when you touch our product, you should kind of feel that there is human history stories behind
Hmm.
that, attached to them. So I don't know if it is more from us that it is really something that is arriving to the public, but definitely we are trying to push it in terms of communication to make it more and more understandable, because again, we really believe that to deliver something unique, you need to have also a sort of unique balance between
Yeah,
past and the future,
the best.
and that's something that we work on every single day.
Mm.
And unfortunately, there are no formulas, scientific formulas, or not even tools that we really can use for that. It's more about having the right balance in the
And
management, in the team, in the people behind the brand.
and sensitivity. Yes, that's something you need
Yes.
to. Yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree more. Ricardo, you are a respected branding expert. So you know that luxury brands often they are afraid of growth because growth, or at least massive growth, normally leads to lack of exclusivity. So based on your experience, what are the actions a brand can take in order to keep exclusivity while expanding the business?
And this is another very good question.
It's a tough one, I know. I'm
It's a
sorry.
very tough one. It's a very tough one because when you say luxury leaders are scared, I am one of those. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, we live in a very connected and globalized world. What does it mean?
Yes.
It means that we kind of share taste for the same things, and we also know everybody
Hmm.
knows what our neighbor from the other side of the world has is doing, is
Yeah.
driving or whatever. So
Hmm.
definitely social media are not helping because are showing a lot, and massive distribution, as you're saying, and globalization also in the taste are
Yes.
not is not helping from that on that side, because
Yeah.
definitely trying to be exclusive, it becomes even harder because in the past exclusivity sometimes was a sort of cultural exclusivity because maybe
Yes.
French people they were loving something, English people they were loving another one, Indians they were loving another, and they didn't even know who was loving what.
Yes.
Nowadays everything is known,
Is
and everything
connected.
is
Yeah.
kind of exactly merging, and we all are influencing each other even more. I think that in this kind of scenario, like believing in quality over quantity is fundamental. I don't really believe so much in the scarcity trick. I produce just a few just to make it more desirable. Yeah, it works sometimes, but I think they are very short-term kind of strategies. So maybe they can work for a launch. You
Hmm.
kind of create something desirable, but I would like I would prefer if the small quantity that you are producing is because you are producing so well that you
Yes.
cannot produce more than that.
More than
So
that. So
that's
we have brands in that field. Yeah. Fashion
indeed,
brands, watch
indeed,
brands, jewelry brands. I remember
indeed.
the famous, sorry to interrupt. I remember you also remember for sure the famous quote by Mr. Enzo Ferrari. He used to say, we should produce one car less than the market is demanding.
Mhm. Exactly. Absolutely.
So,
No, I completely agree. But again, like nowadays we see very often companies launching I don't know, collaboration and stuff, and this is a limited edition, we are not producing so many, where yes, obviously that is creating desirability, but I think that the customer is kind of getting used to those kind of things, and the
mm,
kind of customer that we really want to achieve is the kind of customer that wants quality, want a product, a very qualitative product, and is buying
mhm.
our product because of the all the value, the history, the brand, the heritage, the craftsmanship attached to this, not just because we are teasing him, with strategies and punchlines, and that's it. So again, I really believe that being authentic, coherent in what you are doing along, a long path, a very long trajectory, and trying to improve in quality instead of decrease in term, and making to make a bigger production. I think that that is going to be the future, also because it has been the past in
Mhm.
like something like 50 years ago. Then
Yeah.
obviously capitalism, massive production change a bit, some let's say paradigm and some ideas of luxury, but nowadays I think we're still getting back to what is really unique, maybe even real in the real sense of unique. We like luxury who could also be around customization and making every customer feel absolutely unique.
It
So
is.
that's
Yeah,
how
yeah.
we should try to grow, not just producing many more pieces.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you. As an advisor, you are also an advisor. As an advisor, you've probably seen leadership mistakes from brand leaders. What was the most common leadership mistake that slows brand growth and that you have witnessed? Can you
Yeah,
name or
sure.
highlight a leadership mistake that is making growth more difficult?
Absolutely. I have to say that also I had the pleasure in reality to advise many companies still family owned and very often family run.
Hmm.
So and I truly believe that that's a value. That's not something. Let's say
It's a
that's an
handicap. It's not a
advantage.
handicap.
Exactly. That's not a
Yes.
disadvantage,
Yeah.
because the passion that the entrepreneur can
Oh,
make
yes.
into and the let's say in the passion for the details. Very
Hmm.
often, no one manager can have it if he is not also the owner and maybe I don't know the son of the father that funded the company. So like that's to me a great advantage, even more when we're speaking about luxury. But the big mistake that very often I saw in those cases is that the leaders are getting into the micromanagement too often. So trying to control everything that obviously comes from the passion, comes from, no, I really want to give my value on that. I really want to
Hmm.
try to control everything because obviously when you are strongly emotionally attached to something, you tend to, to
Yes,
go in that direction.
I
But
know.
unfortunately, becomes mistakes because in the long way, having that kind of approach is pushing away the right managers, the right leaders, and growing at that point becomes impossible, or
Hmm.
very, very hard. So slowly, it happened to me to advise to okay, try to delegate, try to let them learn. You cannot also, a leaders that owns a brand and grow up in that kind of an environment cannot
Hmm.
you cannot expect from anybody else working in the company to have the same knowledge, the same sensitivity that you have to that brand. You also need to delegate to let people also sometimes fail,
Yes.
learn, and grow inside your organization. Otherwise, delegating and growing becomes really, really hard.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense, and I couldn't agree more. Um, Success is probably um, in the fact that managing should be balanced
Yeah,
and having the approach of different opinions from different managing profiles. Yes.
absolutely.
Um, and talking about leadership, which digital tools today do you believe luxury leaders are still underestimating? And how should they be using them, to make smarter
Yeah.
decisions? Is there a digital tool which is being underestimated by leaders?
But a particular digital tool, I don't know. I think there are many
Hmm.
related to probably the quality of conversation and the kind of engagement that you can build up with your customer. I think that nowadays we are kind of focused about numbers, figures,
Hmm.
and also leaders are quite pushed to be focused on numbers and quite having a lot of KPIs related to your ROI, ROAS, and so on. Sometimes what we are underestimating is also the qualitative side of the type of relationship that you are building with your customer. And in that sense, there are a lot of tools like of social listening or CRM tools that are really helping you try to understand not how much are you selling, but how you are selling, how your customer discovered about your product, how got engaged to buy, what kind of emotions your product or the sales process is making him feel. I think that nowadays, thankfully, technology is helping also a lot of in that, but not only technology, also having a real approach in analyzing all those steps of the buying experience and the engagement experience. I think are still a lot of underestimated, but are absolutely very important, even more, in the luxury world. Like the more luxury probably your brand and product is, the more important all those shades around, the sales are fundamental.
Very good. Dear Ricardo, we are approaching the end of our conversation. One last question. Many luxury houses are embracing micro scaling, growing in a specific community, developing micro collections, or focusing on a cultural niche. Now, can you share an example that you know of where this approach has created important impact?
But yes, I have to say that I mean I'm gonna bring you a particular example that it's from Persol. Like a couple of years ago, no more, sorry, 4 years ago,
Yes.
I did a campaign with a guy that is called Dimitri Kost. He's a photographer from Paris, from Paris. But he is also a professional motorbike rider in the flat track community in the United States. So flat track is the guys that are drifting on a circle, with
Yeah.
with vintage motorbikes.
Very, very niche sport. Yes.
Very niche, but very keen about aesthetics. Obviously, as it is something, as it is a community that is not really related about, I mean, those are not competition really related about performance and stuff, but they are doing with vintage motorbikes, these kind of things. They also kind of take care a lot about the looks, how they looks when they are drifting. It's an elegance movement, and also they try to be well dressed in a sense that they take care of the details and stuff. And for example, this campaign had a big impact on that community, and we've been invited to many events as Persol team, as and the guy kind of developed also. We also worked on a capsule collection of product like merchandising products, and it really we kind of really perceived how also those kind of niche then they feel really evaluated, when
Yes.
big brands enter in such small niche. So
In their
I don't want I
universe.
yeah, I don't want to say that it's a small effort for the company and a big result, because it's not a small effort. You have to understand which niches also are authentic for you.
Yes.
And for that, for us, for example, was very authentic, because in our past we have Steve McQueen, for example, that was always wearing Persol, and he was a bike rider in the in California and so on. So we kind of looked at our history. We found that we that was could be a fertile environment for us. We tried, and it went very well. But again, authenticity must always be like your
There.
main focus.
Yes. It's a very interesting example for to close our conversation. Dear Ricardo, thank you so much for sharing your vision and your expertise on how luxury brands truly grow. Your practical insights and stories offer tremendous value for our luxury community. For our listeners, you can connect with Riccardo Pozzoli through his social media platforms. And as always, thank you for joining us on the Luxury People podcast by the World Luxury Chamber of Commerce, where we uncover the ideas, people, and stories shaping the future of luxury. My name is António Paraíso. Until next time, bye bye.